art of giving a motivating evaluation and to encourage audience to give another speech using the suggestions they learned to make their next speech even better than their last. Please help me to welcome Dave Nassaney to evaluate, to motivate. Dave.
So I have a question for everybody. How many of you have done an evaluation on a Toastmaster? Anybody? A lot of hands. Of those hands, how many of you have felt after you gave the evaluation, gosh, I wish I could have done better? Anybody like that? Oh, almost everybody. Me too. Well, good news. I believe it's my goal here to help you achieve that goal of doing better evaluations, okay? And the purpose, obviously, is to help our fellow man, help our fellow caregiver. We want to encourage them because we want to motivate them to do well so that they come back and want to do another speech and not just, just say, oh my gosh, I'm never going to do that again, or I think I'm going to quit Toastmasters. Jerry Seinfeld did a joke one time. He says, did you know that 99% of the population at a funeral would rather be in the casket than in the person outside of the casket speaking to the audience? And that's true. People, their number one fear is public speaking. So I have another question for you. Why does Toastmasters do evaluations? I mean, why don't we just do speeches? Wouldn't that be fun? Just listen to speeches all day long? Anyone want to venture a guess of why we don't?
Personal growth.
I think if that happened, it would just be an ego fest, right? Everyone's doing a speech on what they want to do, and some people are really good speakers, and they may intimidate the ones who aren't, and some people think they're really good speakers and will never know that they aren't because they never have an opportunity to be evaluated. So that is the reason why Toastmasters has chosen to have evaluations. So we want to always evaluate to motivate. Now, there's 6 evaluation goals. First one is we want to encourage them. Okay, we want them to come back here and do another speech and just have good, warm, fuzzy feelings about speaking in public instead of wanting to be in the coffin. Number 2, we want to make them feel good. Kind of goes with number 1. Everyone wants to feel good. Nobody wants to feel bad. They're already kind of nervous when they come up here. I'm talking about the first ones and even the last ones. I know a motivational speaker. He once said, the day that I stop being nervous coming up on stage is the day I'm going to quit. Because there's nervous energy, right? All energy is good. Even nervous energy is good. And so I even know a lady, she's my age, I'm 65, and she is a twin. And she was on a movie film with Elvis Presley in the 60s called Double Trouble. So Elvis, was falling in love with both of them. And so she came up to Elvis when they weren't shooting. She says, Elvis, I just am so nervous. I forget my lines and I just freeze up. And Elvis said, honey, my Elvis impersonation. Honey, everybody gets them butterflies. It just means you're alive, even me. So you see, if even Elvis Presley can be nervous, it's okay to be nervous. Number 3, look forward to speaking again. I said that before. We want them to come back. We want it to be a likable, a favorable, a fun experience, right? How many here are having fun when they come up here on the stage and speak? Oh, I see that hand. Well, it will be more and more fun. Positive feedback, right? We need to give them some positive feedback, like, hey, that was really good. Even if it was a terrible, terrible speech, we want to find something good in it. Even the worst speech that I've ever heard had something good. Maybe they were pacing back and forth like I am and say, hey, that was really good use of the stage, right? Or if they use the word so much and you say, well, hey, that was a great smile that you had on your face during the whole time. There's always something you can find to give positive feedback to. And then number 5, only one suggestion for improvement. There have been speeches that I could I've listed 10 things that they need to do, but I can't tell them all 10 at once. They'll never come back. They'll be so discouraged and depressed. So you want to only pick one, the worst one. Maybe not the worst one, but pick one, because they're going to speak again, and then you can talk about the other one, and then the next time you can talk about the other one. I've done 40 speeches in 6 years here at Toastmasters, and every single speech was evaluated. And most of the evaluators were pretty good, and they encouraged me, and they did everything that I'm saying to do here, and it caused me to like it, have fun, be challenged, and to come back to do more speeches. Don't overwhelm with negative remarks. So you just want to be positive, okay? 3 reasons why we evaluate. Well, the first reason is because we want to provide immediate feedback. What happens when you go home from your speech? You forget it. I mean, you're so nervous to get up here. You want immediate, like it's fresh in your mind, and so you can give them what's going on. They can take notes, or they're filling out the evaluation form. They get that. They can study it when they get home, and it's all fresh in their mind, and they can maybe even work on it. So that's one reason why we evaluate at Toastmasters. Offering methods for improvement. Not only do we tell them, what they did good and maybe some suggestions, we give them other methods that that we have used. Like, hey, I noticed that you used 30 ums. Here's how I got my 30 ums down to like 2 ums. It might work for you. So those kinds of improvement suggestions are very, very helpful. Building and maintaining self-esteem. We all want self-esteem, right? Because nobody has it. It was all damaged when we were a child, and we have inferiority complexes, and everybody told us we were no good at anything. We'd never be good at singing or dancing or whatever it is our dream was. So we want to build up their self-esteem. We want them to believe, because I believe that everyone can be a speaker. I don't care if you're the worst speaker. So many motivational speakers like Les Brown, Joyce Meyer, have told us that they were told in school that they would never learn how to be a speaker. They had dyslexia, they stuttered, and so on. Andre Crouch, 9-time Emmy Award-winning gospel singer, had everything. He was bipolar, he was dyslexic, he stuttered as a boy, and yet somehow he won 9 Grammys. Now, evaluations are a monologue. They're not a dialogue. And the reason for that is because there's 4 reasons. We want the evaluator to do all the speaking, and we want the speaker to do all the listening. We don't want them interrupting. Say, hey, I thought about that too, and blah, blah. Now, number one, there's a reason why we want that, because we want the meetings to run efficiently, and we would be here till 10 o'clock p.m. if we had that kind of interaction. It's their job to just listen, and it's our job to speak. And it also allows the speaker to focus on what we're saying. They're not concerned with anything but listening. They're not concerned with what they're going to say next, because they're not talking, and so on. New members should not evaluate until they've conducted several speeches. And there's a good reason for that, because it's hard, but it's easy to learn how. And you've really got to see many evaluations before you start to feel the confidence. You say, I could do that. And besides, you learn from a lesson like this, it just gives you a checklist of what to do, what to look for, and so on. So we do recommend that new speakers not be evaluators until they have a few under their belt. How to evaluate effectively. Now, before the speech, you want to read the manual. Everyone has a manual, and it tells you the purpose of the speech. It tells you, some tips on how you can get the most out of the speech, and so on. Read that thing. In the beginning, I didn't. I just did the speech. I said, and it wasn't until the 4th or 5th speech that I realized that there was a lot of valuable information in there. So, read the manual and the objectives and all of that. And then ask about any concerns regarding the speech or speaker's ability. That's a good time to find out, first of all, if the person who's evaluating you even knows what you're speaking on, because a lot of times, as you can tell, we come in here and we're missing evaluators, and, you be the evaluator today, and so I just, like I did today, I handed Colette my thing, and She didn't know what I was talking about. She didn't know anything. We should have had a discussion first, but there was no time. But that's the ideal of what we should do. Show that you're interested. I mean, don't just, at least pretend you're interested. Because nobody likes somebody who seems uninterested and detached and they're just doing it because, oh, it's my turn to evaluate. You want to seem very interested. So there are ways that you can do that. You can put yourself in the position of the speaker. So if they're speaking on bicycling and you have some experience from bicycling, you might want to say, hey, I really like this speech because I had this bicycle journey that I did, and so on and so on. Personalize your language. 4 suggestions. Stimulate improvement. Use words like, I want to go back. Yes, this is it. So put yourself in the position of the speaker before giving your evaluation. Stay away from words like these. These are very negative. You didn't, you should have, you failed to. Those sound like criticism. I mean, people get enough of that from their mother and their spouse. So you want this to be a fun and positive experience. So change those words to, I believe, or my reaction was, or I suggest that. So instead of saying like, let's say they did 30 ums or whatever, you don't want to say, you didn't, or you failed to stop using filler words. This is your 3rd time. That's a very negative thing to say. You don't want to do that. You should say, hey, I suggest that maybe use this kind of method that helped me to overcome that. Watch for symptoms of fear or insecurity. Sometimes I've seen people out there, they're shaking, or they're white, so they're really scared, they're insecure. So you want to recognize that and don't criticize things that are causing them to do that because of their fear or insecurity. Let's say they're just not talking loud enough, because most people who are afraid and insecure, they're talking really low. So don't criticize that they're talking low. Just say, hey, I noticed that you were feeling a little nervous today, and so on. Because the real problem is that they were nervous, not that they were talking low. You understand? Like I said, we want to promote self-esteem. So always end your evaluation positive. Always want to end up. So avoid being disingenuous. That means don't try to just praise the speaker, on everything and ignore all of the negative stuff. You want to be honest. You want to just let them know that you're not giving them a pass, and avoid covering up the flaws. Don't treat them like, oh, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Well, you're not doing them any favors by not being honest about this. Final guidelines. Connect with the speaker in your opening statement. So, like I said, in the bicycle statement, you might want to say when you're evaluating, I really enjoyed this speech, Mark. I also was a biker, and, I got into a bicycle accident. Connect with them. Let them know that you're really interested in their speech and you're connecting with them. Summarize your key points, like I was doing there. If possible, give a personal story or example for anything you can, just to make it personal and not just reading off a piece of paper. And encourage your listeners to apply what they heard. So when they go on their next speech, they should have all the suggestions that we gave them from the last speech. So maybe when they had 30 ums or uhs or fillers, maybe the next time they only have 15.